Hi, it's Surya and today is Monday, but today I will not be teaching another cube. Today I'm going to show you the cube notations for all the cubes that I have. 3x3, Pyraminx, square one, everything. So let's get into it.
Now hold it. Before we actually go into it, I just have a few things that I want to say about these notations. Now first thing is that you may see that I will explain these double turns in the 3x3 and you may not find much use for them. That's because they're actually very useful in the speed cubing section. They can actually avoid changing your grip a lot. For example, R, U and F prime, that requires you to change your grip a lot, right? But if you were to use double turns, you can just do an R, lower D and R prime. So you don't really need to change your grip and all that. So that makes it faster. That's the first thing. Second thing is that when we give like a long list of cube notations for like, I don't know, a formula or something, like say if we're trying to solve the last layer, you will notice that sometimes things are bracketed. Until recently, I really didn't know what that meant. But as it turns out, they actually help with, memorizing. They're kind of, I don't remember the official name, but they're called trigger moves, I believe. For example, R, U, R prime, U prime. The moment you see that, you just go like that. That's just something fast that you're supposed to do. Things like that, they will usually be written in brackets. But I usually try to make the whole thing look symmetrical, so I put brackets randomly. That tends to make it easier for me to memorize. I don't know about you, but yeah, that's the second thing. And the third thing is that the gear shift or the gear cube 2x2 or the gear drift, this does not actually have any cube notations. This just requires like an explanation because you have to pull these sides out, you have to rotate these based on these cogs and everything. That makes it kind of complicated. So this doesn't have any cube notations. So anyway, now that's done with, let's get into it. So first, let's go over the basics. Now, the cube notations for the 3x3 essentially form the basis for the cube notations of all the other cubes. So let's start with this. Basically, whenever they give any letter, as long as it doesn't have that symbol ahead of it, it just means move that side clockwise. Okay? So if they say U, it means move the up side clockwise. U stands for up. So that would be this. So U is up, F is front, R is right, L is left, D is down, and B is back. That's basically it. So U would be this, and U with that apostrophe there, that would be called U prime, and that's U anti-clockwise. So that would be this. So R, R prime, F, F prime, L, L prime, D, D prime, and B prime. Now there are a few more. For example, if they by the way, all these notations will all be capital. If they ever give a lowercase letter, that just means do the same thing but do it as a double layer move. For example, a small u would just mean move the u but along with this. That would be this. I mean, they're not very useful in 3x3s. They're only used in advanced methods of solving, but they become useful in things like the 4x4 and the 5x5. So anyway, this would be small u and small u prime, small r prime, and so on. This would actually be M, standing for middle, and this would be M prime. So for M, just go by left side. This would be clockwise and anti-clockwise. Same thing with this. This is E, go by the top side, E and E prime. And this is S and S prime. I don't remember what E and S stand for. If you ever know, if you happen to know, just let me know. So yeah, this would be M, M prime, E, E prime, S, S prime. M is used pretty often, but E and S are not very useful. So now that we know that, let's just talk whole cube reorientations once. So the whole cube reorientations are basically X, Y, and Z. Now they're pretty simple. X is basically just rotate on R, but without turning anything. So X would just be rotate based on R clockwise. X prime is just do this. Y would be based on this, based on the upside. So Y is this, Y prime is this, clockwise, anti-clockwise based on the top side. Z would be based on the front side. So Z would be clockwise and Z prime would be anti-clockwise. That's basically it. So now that we know that, let's just see where all this can be useful. It's useful in the 3x3. It's also useful in the Fisher cube, which is a shape mod of the 3x3. It's useful in the axis cube, also a shape mod. Mirror cube, another shape mod. 2x2, it's useful, but we don't have M, E, S and any of the lowercase things. It's just the basic stuff. It is also useful in the Pyraminx, but that one has slightly different ones, which I will explain in a bit. The gear cube or the gear ball and the gear cube extreme also use this, but because they have double moves every once in a while, this would not be R. I mean, you can't exactly do that. The only allowed move is this, so you would think that this would be R, but no, this is R2. Well, why is that? Because of this, basically. Over here, I mean, you could call this one R2. I mean, this one is called R2. And I mean, you could call it R if you want, say this is R. But guess what? This is allowed, this single move, which isn't exactly allowed in this. So it's easier to call this R2 and this one U. So anyway, that's that. Let's get on to the next one. So now let's talk about the Pyraminx. As I said before, it uses the basics notations that the 3x3 and all of them use, but there are slightly different things. For example, you should know that these are tip turns and these are the normal turns that we use. So you'd think that these were double turns, so they would use lowercase, and these were single turns, so they use uppercase. But in a Pyraminx, it's actually switched because we use these moves most of the time. We don't spend most of our time turning these tips around, now do we? Not really. That's why these would be uppercase and these are lowercase. So whenever you hold the Pyraminx like this is U, this is R, this is L, and this is B. And you know, U prime, R prime, L prime, oh no, that's not L prime, L prime, and B prime. All of them capitals. Now the lowercase would just be these tip turns. That's basically about it. Being deeper cubes of the 3x3, you may have guessed that the cube notations for the 4x4 and 5x5 would be pretty easy to understand. So let's just go into that for a second. Now, if you'll remember me saying a lowercase letter for anything just means a double turn. So you may say a lowercase r would mean that over here, a lowercase r over here, and this over here. But then, you know, in the 4x4 and 5x5, we've got these as well, right? These higher turns. So how do you symbolize those? Well, that's the reason lowercase letters aren't used that much in these two. We actually use a slightly different thing. So the basic moves are all the same for these two. This is U, U prime, F, F prime, R, R prime, L, L prime, and so on, D, D prime, and B, B prime. Same thing with this. But there are a few extra things. Basically over here they have inner turns and deep turns. Inner turns would basically be just moving the inner slice like this, like that. Over here it would be something like this, or this one, like that. And a deep turn would be to move multiple layers at the same time, turning like that, or that, 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 even that, stuff like that. So they're both symbolized in two different ways. First, inner turns are, okay, let's say, okay, let's move this layer once clockwise. You write it as 2R because it would be the second layer. This is the first one, this is the second, not layer, slice. This is the first slice, so this is R, or just 1R, and this is the second slice, so it's 2R. This would be 2R, 2R prime, and well, 2U, 2U prime, stuff like that. Same thing with this. This would be 2R, 2R prime, 3R, 3R prime. This would be 4R and 4R prime, but at that point it just becomes easier to say 2L and 2L prime. But yeah, you could write it like that. Now, well, you may be wondering where the M, E, and S went. Well, basically because of the fact that an M could mean this, or this one, entire thing. We don't really use those, but I don't know, in this you could use an M. I mean, you could say an M is something like 2R prime, 3R prime, 4R prime, something like that. But that's basically it. Even the whole cube reorientations would be the same. This is X x prime, y, y prime, z, z prime. But yeah, that's about it. So the official cube notations for the Megaminx can be really hard to wrap your head around. So I'm just gonna explain it to you. So it just uses 3 letters actually. That apparently makes it easier to scramble and everything. So it just uses U, which is this. It uses D, which would be this entire thing, and R, which would be this. So this would be U plus, which was 1 step clockwise, U plus plus, and minus would be in the anti-clockwise direction, U minus and U minus minus. And that would be D plus, D plus plus, and then D minus, D minus minus, and R plus, R plus plus, R minus, R minus minus. So that apparently makes sure to reorient the cube such that you can basically turn any side that you want. But I feel as though this might be a bit too complicated for me, that is. So I usually just use something different for my tutorials. I just keep this as U, R, L, and F. That's pretty much what I do. But anyway, that's pretty much it. So the cube notations for the Skewb and Skewb Extreme are the exact same. They don't have any difference at all. But I mean, in my tutorials, if you've noticed, I don't use them at all. But you know, just in case any of you are curious, I'll just explain it to you. So when you hold the Skewb or the Skewb Extreme like this would be uppercase F, this would be uppercase R, L, uppercase, and that would be B. Now these 4 would be all the lowercase ones. So this would be lowercase f, lowercase r, lowercase l, and lowercase b, like that. That's pretty much it. And you know, uppercase f prime would just be that, and you know, that's pretty much it. It's the same stuff otherwise. Same thing for this. This is uppercase f, uppercase lowercase f, things like that. So that's pretty much the same. So that's about it. So I've saved my favorite for the last. The square one has pretty neat notations. So basically you hold the square one like this, and well, this is called a slice. Basically, as long as you can form a line around this here, you can turn it, and only 180-degree moves here are allowed. And as for here, you can do anything. Yeah, it's a complete shapeshifter. I love this thing. So basically a slice is represented by a slash, like that. So between each move, if you ever see a slash, it means slice. So you rotate this at some point, and you rotate this at some point, and slash again. Okay. Now each set of moves, move the top layer, move the bottom layer, is written in brackets. So I mean, you're gonna see brackets, one number and the second number. The first number is to move this, and the second is to move the lower layer. So a positive number means move that side clockwise. Negative number means move the side anti-clockwise. So positive is this, negative is that. Positive, negative, same thing. Now a single unit, like if they say 1, it means you have to move the entire layer by 30 degrees, this much. Basically one tiny step, not big step, tiny step. The big step is 60 degrees. So tiny step, tiny step, tiny step. Now if they ever say 2, that goes tiny step, tiny step. It doesn't matter if it does not match here. That is exactly what it is. You're not supposed to go all the way there. That is 3. So 3 is actually 90 degrees. 1, 2, 3. So 3 tiny steps. That's 1, 2, like that. That's pretty much it. So you can see brackets, and then the top layer move, bottom layer move, and then a slash. Again, just keeps going like that. So that's about it. Well, that's about it. We've learned the cube notation for every single cube that I have. So hope you enjoyed this.